It's 9:30 a.m. We're going to call the Joint Legislative Audit meeting to order. We recognize that we do not have a quorum. We ask that all members who are members of the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, if you would please report to room 447 so that we can establish a quorum. Again, members who are on the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, if you can please report to room 447 so that we can establish a quorum. In the absence of a quorum, we will act as a subcommittee. And we will have our first report given to us by our state auditor, Ms. Elaine Howell. I want to wish everyone Happy New Year if I have not had opportunity to greet you personally. Ms. Elaine Howell, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I don't know. We'll get it together.
All right.
It's been 4 months, so give me a moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. For the record, my name is Elaine Howell, California State Auditor. The status report that I have to share today is currently we have 21 audits in progress in our status. 16 of those are JLAC audits that this committee approved sometime last year. We have 5 statutory audits in progress. One is an audit of the State Bar that we're required to do. We have the financial audit that we do on an annual basis, and certainly looking at federal money, which is a single audit combined with the financial audit, but a variety of statutory work, 5 projects there. We have other work in progress. We have currently working on a state high-risk audit that will be issuing soon. We went back in to look at covered California. We had looked at them a couple of years ago and decided it was time to get back in there and take a look at their progress as far as attaining fiscal sustainability. As I'm sure you're aware, by 2016, this year they need to have programs in place to be fully self-sustaining. So we decided we would look at that. We'll be issuing that soon, and we have a subcommittee report that we hope is of value to this committee and certainly all members of the legislature. That report tells the members of the legislature the progress that agencies have made in implementing recommendations that we have made in reports going back for a 2-year window. So hopefully both budget committees and some policy committees will find that document useful. So that's the work we currently have in progress. We had a banner year last year. We issued 53 products. 20 of those were requests from the legislature. We issued 12 audits that were of statutory nature, and then we did some follow-up work and some high-risk work. The committee today will be considering 8 requests, 6 of those from members of the legislature. 2 requests relate to the local high-risk program that my office was given the authority by Assemblymember Lara, the legislature, and the governor signing the bill, enacted a program that would allow us, it mirrors our state high-risk program, which allows us to look at cities, counties, special districts, and really assess them based on a variety of risk factors. And we went through a regulatory process this last year to lay out the requirements for that particular program. So I'll be talking about that a little bit later in the hearing when we discuss. We have 2 cities that we're proposing, asking for the authority from this committee to go in and dig a little bit deeper, and that is the city of Maywood and the city of Hemet, and those proposals are in your binder, so I'll be able to step through those for you later in the hearing. We have sufficient resources available, or will have resources available over the course of the next 3 months to commence 11 projects. So as I said, there are 8 on the agenda for today, so I have plenty of staff available to fulfill all of the statutory or JLAC work that may get approved today, in addition to any or both of the local high-risk proposals that you have before you today. With that, Mr. Chair, I could answer any questions members may have.
Any members have any questions for our state auditor? Hearing none, members, just want to remind you the format. We have 6 audit requests before us today. We will follow the normal process and format by which members, we will go in the sign-in order. After do the sign-in order, members of the committees, if you have anything to present, you will present last. After each member presents, the auditor will give her analysis, followed by any comments by the affected agency. We'll have an opportunity to come up and address the committee. questions from the members here to the auditor and or to the agency that will be rebutting anything or having any comments regarding the audit request, and then we will move into any questions or answers from the audience. We'll have audience participation from there as well. We're still waiting for more members. Again, we will ask members, please report to room 447 to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. At this particular point in time, I think we have Mr. Rodriguez here. We would invite you to please come up and make a presentation on your request. This is a request by Member Rodriguez, item number 2016-106, the Los Angeles County Fair Association. Welcome, Mr. Rodriguez, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and good morning, Mr. Chair.
And before Mr. Rodriguez begin, I want to inform everyone here, at this point, Mr. Rodriguez will be presenting his request to us. There will be no vote taken at this particular point in time. When is, you have the date? A vote will take place next week, Wednesday, the 20th of January. Where and what time?
3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock p.m. So again, Mr. Rodriguez will give his presentation, and the vote on this item will take place on January 20th at 3 o'clock p.m. At another JLAC hearing that is scheduled, and so that hearing will be publicly noticed as well. So with that, Mr. Rodriguez, you're up to bat.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity for the audit presentation this morning. Over the course of several months, a number of shocking concerns about the Los Angeles County Fair Association have been brought to light. The most alarming is an investigation by the LA Times in November where it raised disturbing allegations that the association may be misusing public funds while their executives reap the benefits. The investigation found that the association lost roughly $6.25 million from 2010 through 2013. Though it rewarded its CEO and top 4 executives a collective $8.75 million, which included a combined $2.8 million in incentives and bonuses. The CEO averaged about $846,000 in annual compensation. According to just one agency, from 2005 to 2011, the California Department of Food and Agriculture distributed roughly $1.4 million in public funds to the association. Additionally, during this period of financial loss, the association received $9.3 million in federal bonds. The residents of my district are now questioning what benefit the association is having on the community and to what degree have public funds misused. The LA County Fair Association was formed in 1940 to promote the agriculture industry, yet it has evolved far beyond its original purpose. It was discovered during the investigation that it no longer invites 4-H clubs to showcase animals at the fair. The association has prioritized commercial enterprises instead, such as its hotel, convention center, and catering businesses. This new prioritization has led to questions surrounding our public safety. For example, at the end of this past year, 2 raves were approved to take place at the fairgrounds. The 2 incidents collectively led to the deaths of 2 young women and roughly 300 arrests, mostly for drug and alcohol-related offenses. Our local emergency personnel and departments were strained, leading to delayed response times in treatment. Members, as guardians of our public resources, be it tax dollars, incentives, financing mechanisms, or the like, it is our responsibility to investigate potential abuse. Standing in my support are Congresswoman Norma Torres and Los Angeles County Supervisor Hilda Solis, whose districts include the fairgrounds. This audit will examine a number of issues, but most notably, it will look at public funding sources and expenditures, accounting practices, the organizational structure, and its nonprofit status. With me here to support in testimony is Mario Ramos, an active member of Protect Our Neighborhood, and Patricia Ramos with the Community Advocates Coalition.
Thank you very much. Your witnesses may proceed. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Gibson and committee members. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our case to you guys. I've been living in the city of Pomona for over 20 years. My home is adjacent to the Fairplex, literally 100 yards away. And over those 20 years, and my family has been in the city of Pomona. My extended family has been in the city of Pomona for over 40 years, so we're Pomona people. We got educated, came back into our community to actually try to do work in a community that's actually suffering a lot of issues, including high levels of drug usage and other problems. And over the years, over the last 20 years, we've seen the Fairplex slowly morph into something that is no longer what we consider a county fair. The charter in which it was given its nonprofit license. Attempts to address some of our concerns have been somewhat challenging. It has become a big organization, and it's become a big challenge. It's extended into something that no longer looks like a nonprofit. Its revenues are now, its for-profit revenues are now exceeding the nonprofit aspect of it. But I guess they have multiple for-profit venues, the hotel, the convention center, cornucopia. But I think the straw that's eventually broke, the last straw was the raves they just started to introduce in the last 18 months. One of them in which we tried to halt. I filed an appeal to stop the last rave, the one that led to the death of two young females that were in college, and that in itself is regrettable and devastating. But there was a lot of attempts, and it was very successful that shot down our appeal. It cost me $1,000 just to have this put on the calendar to be heard, and so here we are now today with this the institution itself. I question. I have a report that's been submitted, an extensive report that I did. We're questioning the status of it now. Is it still a nonprofit? Do we need to recategorize the fair? It seems to be running a for-profit and nonprofit simultaneously, getting obviously some tax benefits on the nonprofit side, plus other benefits that come with it, and giving them an unfair advantage to local business because of their economic advantages that they get and somewhat monopolistic advantages. So I just think we need to have some kind of extensive study to look at the agency itself, the Fairplex, just to vet it out, see what's going on, see what works and what's not working. And at the end of the story, we're a large community that has challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you have another witness? State your name for the record, please.
My name is Patricia Ramos Anderson, and I'm part of the Community Advocacy Coalition, CAC, founding member. And it's about neighbors helping neighbors. For us, we've seen the changes that have happened at the LA Fairplex and the Fairgrounds Association. And what's key is that we want to develop a collaboration with the association in its organizational structure of its board. It needs to expand. Change is good. It's healthy. When organizations grow, they tend to change, but the structure of the board representation needs to diversify. We need to also include the agricultural community involved on the board locally. We need to have more local small business association representatives to be on the board, and also local community residents that live in the area that are in the surrounding communities as well to be well represented on the board. So diversity means a variety of things, as well as we need to also identify the process and selection process for being on the board. That is very key and vital. If we don't know what the process is, then how are we to be viable candidates with our credentials, our commitment to our community to be a part of if we don't know the process or if it's not an open process or democratic process. Also, what's very key is that the diversity of the board should also be reflecting the demographics of the community that's serving. And that's going to be the challenge. But we're here to work with them in addressing that in partnership and in collaboration. And sometimes we might not agree and we'll disagree, and that's okay to respect each other's disagreements, but to move forward in a positive manner that benefits the community as a whole, but more important, the local community, and to address when there is a crisis, how we can work it out together mutually and have a win-win situation. And in closing is that we're here to work together with the Association of the County Fair, but more important is that we need to make sure that the community's voice is heard and they have a meaningful civic participation throughout the whole process. And there's accountability and transparency throughout the process as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have our state auditor to give her analysis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. As Assemblymember Rodriguez indicated, this would be an audit looking at Los Angeles County and the Fair Association. The first objective, as he mentioned, is trying to identify public funding. Going back, he's asked us to go back a 10-year window and identify any public funding received by the association, and based on that public funding, what was that funding used for? What types of expenditures, what major expenditures did the association use or incur using public funds. In addition to that, he's interested in having us compare the executive compensation for individuals at the association with executive compensation of organizations of similar size. In addition, to the extent possible, we will evaluate the association's hiring and compensation practices. How do they determine who they're going to hire? How do they go about the process in determining what the compensation should be? In addition, we will determine whether or not the association is following the appropriate financial and accounting standards. It's my understanding in the contract between the county and the association there is a requirement that they comply with generally accepted accounting standards, so we will be looking to make sure that the association is doing that. Another objective looking at a 10-year window is determine over the last 10 years whether or not the association has operated at a loss in any point in time, any of those years. So he's asking us to look at all 10. And then for those years that they perhaps did operate at a loss, what were the key factors that drove that? What drove the association to be in a deficit situation in any of those years, if we identify some? A couple of more objectives, asking whether or not the association's activities and its mission are really in alignment, and looking at a specific section of the government code 25900, et cetera. So we will, we'll have our legal staff who assist. We have an attorney assist. Every audit team will be looking at that particular code section and understanding how that aligns with the association. Looking at the nonprofit status, as the member indicated, and some of his witnesses indicated, there are concerns as to whether or not their status and their filings are appropriate with respect to the applicable requirements to maintain nonprofit status. So we will look at that. And then to the extent possible, again, we will look at how the board is established. What are the processes that the association uses to select the members of the board, elect members of the board, et cetera. So asking us to look at that as well. The audit would take staff's time about 2,600 hours. An audit of that size will take us about 6 months to complete. With that, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you very much. We'll move at this time the affected agency or department or representative representing the agency. Would you please join us at the table and please state your name for the record.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Anthony Gonsalves. I've had the privilege of representing the Los Angeles County Fair for approximately 15 years. They are a private, nonprofit corporation. Out of the funds that we've been talking about, $1.2 million of that I happen to know because I was involved in the legislation. When we did satellite wagering, we came up with a mechanism of using horse racing money, not state money, horse racing money from wagering from Del Mar to pass through to the LA County Fair to help with the impact of satellite wagering, so they could use that money only for purses. And that's about $1.2 million of the money we're talking about. That is horse racing money. It is not state revenue. And LA County Fair has always cooperated and worked with the members of the legislature for the 15 years I've represented them, and they look forward to working with the auditor and cooperating fully. They believe they have nothing to hide. They are in the midst of an audit right now with LA County, and that audit, we believe, is going to be available by the end of this month. But I told Mr. Rodriguez that we would find out for sure what the time frame is on that, so it can coincide with the state auditor. And like I said, the LA County Fair looks forward to cooperating completely with this committee and all the members of the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rodriguez, would you like to have any final comments? I'm sorry. We'll have questions from the committee members.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sure that you are truly representing your constituents by bringing this forward. If there is a whisper out there, or you have two witnesses that have come forward to say that this is a problem and they're concerned that it's not transparent in what they believe, a lot of it has to do with perception. We know that. And perception is half of our reality. But to the auditor, so I want to thank you for that. To the auditor, one of the witnesses just mentioned that the LA County is doing their own audit. And it will be out in a month, you said, or?
I believe it'll be at the end of this month.
At the end of the month. When you go through your audit, do you look at that and compare what the areas that they've taken on to the outline that we have, or do you just stay focused on what we will be approving here, or do you have the ability on what we move forward to kind of look at what they've addressed that we may have not covered in your scope?
Excellent question. What the standards that my office follows requires us to, when we commence an audit, to determine whether there's any work that's been done by previous auditors. So we would absolutely be very interested in seeing the work that the LA County Auditor is currently doing. It's my understanding that they had 120 days. The Board of Supervisors directed them to conduct the audit. They had 120 days. If they get it done sooner, that's great. So if this audit is approved and depending on when the committee would like us to commence the audit, that would be one of the first steps we would take, is reach out to the LA County Auditor, see what they've done, and if we can rely on some of their work to answer some of the objectives, that will actually save time and save money related to this audit. If there are things that they've looked at that we haven't been called on to look at, I would assume the LA County Auditor is going to publish a public report perhaps prior to ours. If not, then we may incorporate some of that information in our final report. But a short answer to your question is absolutely we would reach out and review the work that's currently being done by the county auditor.
And then another question. You mentioned that it's a private nonprofit.
That's correct.
Right. So I hear, one of the concerns is that the CEO and others are receiving enormous bonuses and enormous amount of money. Who determines, or not who determines, who approves those bonuses? Does it go before the governing board, or does the CEO have the ability to just do that? How does that, because I sit on a nonprofit and I know that anytime you approve a bonus, it has to go to the whole governing board, which I think will get to the question on how individuals are picked to be on the board. So I kind of want to understand that from your perspective from the board.
The Los Angeles County Fair executive compensation was determined after they hired a nationally recognized independent executive compensation firm, Frederick W. Cook and Company, Inc. which the fair is providing that information to Los Angeles County, and I'm sure they'll be happy to provide that to the auditor.
And so who voted for his recommendation to move forward? Was it
That
the
was
board?
the board of directors.
Okay, the board of directors. Okay, that, I think, and you'll be looking at that particular, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I appreciate that.
And we appreciate cooperation by that.
All right, good.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you.
Any other members wish to ask any questions? No? Okay. Mr. Rodriguez, any closing comments you may have?
Well, in closing, Mr. Chair and members, the residents of my community deserve transparency and accountability, especially when it comes to the resources of our taxpayers. Because of this, I respectfully ask that you approve this audit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will have a vote actually scheduled to take place on January the 20th at 3 o'clock, so we will delay the vote until such time. At this time, we will have public comments. If you have any comments that you wish to share with this committee to consider, please, this microphone is made available to you, and you have 2 minutes to do so. Seeing and hearing no comments. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair and members.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
We see Mr. Santiago with us this morning. Mr. Santiago, you could please step to the table. And we will be dealing with item number 2016-108, the Department of Developmental Services. Mr. Santiago, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, for allowing us to make a presentation today and for the state auditor to be here with us today. I'd like to respectfully request an audit of rate-setting policies and expenditures related to in-home respite care, which are currently administered by DDS. This is a really important issue. DDS currently is responsible for managing and overseeing programs that approximately affect about 280,000 individuals. It currently sets the rates for all the in-home respite care. We're talking about tune of about $260 million per year, and this is why it's important. Since 2002, it's not followed, as I understand, it's a normal practice for a variety of reasons, budget cuts and others, where if home respite care is set and they're going into business, for about 6 months, they're given a temporary rate. It's about $21.63, at which time they turn in cost statements, and then the rate is set anywhere between, and I'm using round-up numbers, from $18 to about $25. It's not been done since 2000, and we feel that it's important to go back and take a look at its practices and make sure that we're actually using tax dollars in the most efficient way possible, given what we've learned. And for those reasons, we would respectfully request an audit. And I have 2 witnesses who will be brief. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Your witness may proceed after they introduce themselves.
Thank you. Tiffany Whiten with SEIU California in support of the audit, and we want to thank Assemblymember Santiago for requesting such audit. Our members have firsthand experience as caregivers and know far too well the difficulties of caring for individuals with developmental disabilities. They rely on the in-home respite program to help re-energize them and provide high-quality care. This audit will bring clarity and transparency to the use of the public funds, as well as ensure that our most vulnerable population is receiving the proper care. We ask for your approval of the request of this audit. I have with me Maria Cruz from Local 2015 to answer any technical questions that you may have.